Hi everybody, this is Donnaleigh, and I'm going to teach you Grand Tableau today with houses with an actual question from a client who gave me permission to use this as a teaching tool. So she calls herself Annie, and she asked this question, so we'll be delving into this. I've received an overture on a social network from a woman, and I feel that she may not have my best interest at heart, that she actually may be baiting me. So I believe she has a friendly relationship with a man I once knew who has taken advantage of me in business, and he's using her as well, I believe, to hurt me. But I have no proof. Am I just being paranoid, or should I keep my distance? So that's Annie. So we'll explore this today. We'll talk about how to get 3 characters into a Lenormand spread. We've got our querent, the woman she's worried about, and the relationship of this woman to this man. So here we go. And the question is an interesting one, and something many of us may have experienced on social media. So what we have here is 3 people that we'll be reading here. So it's the woman who's the querent, and then there's a man. We've got 2 man cards in this deck. This is the Postmark Lenormand by Melissa Hill, and then we've got 2 woman cards. So one of these 2 will end up being Annie. Let's just make it this one. This will be the woman who made the overture, and that will be our man. So we have an extra card I'm going to remove from the deck. This deck also has a Happy Squirrel card. It's not typically a Lenormand card. It's kind of a random funny card that's added to tarot. What we can do, can't find it, so I think it's meant to stay in here. If it comes down, here it is. Let's do this. If it comes down, I'll put it down, but I'll put another card on top of it, and this will just kind of give a coloring to the card that we put down. All right, so we've got 3 players here. We're going to put them back into the deck. I'm going to give it a good swish shuffle, and what I will be doing is using houses for the spread and combinations as well. So the houses, you can make one of these at home. All houses is all the cards 1 through 36 put in order. This is called a 8 by 4 plus 4 spread, and you can also do 9 by 4. These last 4 cards tend to be very important in terms of kind of like a big lesson or big message, or what will be the outcome of this, whatever you want to define this to be. So let's give our cards a shuffle, and I'm going to put them down, and I will be right back. Okay, so our Grand Tableau is down, and we have an interesting spread here, so just so that we can find all the players. So this is Annie, who we're reading. Interesting, she's right smack in the middle of our spread. This is the woman who made the overture. Just adjust this. That's the woman that made the overture right here, and the man, who is, they wonder if it's a player in here, is up ahead. So just to let everybody know, I tend to weigh heavily toward the French way of interpreting the cards. Everything to her left is Annie's past. Everything to her right, including him, is Annie's future. These may be things weighing on her mind. These may be more practical things, earthly things. And we're going to take a good look at all corners of this. So here are the 3 things I like to look at first. I feel always drawn to take a look at the central person and take a look at what house they're on. And because we have 3 people here, I'm tempted to go 3 places. So what I want to do is take a peek at Annie, and she is in the 20th house, which is a house of the garden, and interesting because that is like a social media type thing, a group of people, and that's where she landed. So interesting. The woman over here landed on the bouquet. Now I had extra card because she's in the deck, so I had decided that the extra card that I had, what I would do is when I got down to here, I would just take it and slip it under wherever she landed, so I didn't know what card would come up or where she'd land. Ended up being the moon, and it was on the house of the bouquet. This extra card thing is not a traditional Lenormand thing, but it's something, if you don't know what to do with the extra card, I wasn't sure which card to take out because I like to use all of them for information. So I'm just keeping it in there for the purposes of seeing if it helps add clarity to the reading.
So she landed on the bouquet. So a gift, an offering, and there's that overture that we have. And interesting because the moon, if we sandwich that in between, we've got the woman and the overture. How do we see her? The moon is about our reputation, how we define people, how we are seen. So that's kind of defining what this reading is. So she's in a social network, the garden. She got an overture from this woman, trying to see what her true face is. And if we look at the man, he is in the house of the coffin, endings, done, things that are over. So the coffin can also be about, of course, new beginnings, because it's over here at the end. So it's like when the 9 and 10 rolls over back to the 1 again. It can also be disruption, something that causes something to end. It can also be illness. So he may not be a well person, who knows. We'll take a look at the other cards around it. So that's where I start. Another thing I do is I'll take these 4 corners and see if it helps define it. I'll often take a look down here and see the ending. I'm going to hold that off this time though. I've already kind of thought about those cards. I just kind of want to leave those for you. This is upside down. I'm just going to turn it right side up because we don't read reversals in Lenormand. Okay, so here's our corner cards. Here she is again, right next to this corner, and there's the bouquet. So how ironic that she's both on the gift or the overture, and it's above her as well. And the rider is a message. So she's coming in with a message and a gift, an overture. And so this is our first corner. So the message of an offer. Then he becomes a key player. He's boxing her in. So, and here is that coffin. So we will figure out what this coffin means, but it tends to be, as you know, coffins can be part of a very painful experience. Down here we have the garden again. So clearly when we're talking about groups of people, this is something that Annie is really at the center of right now and concerned about. And that is also on the moon, which this woman happens to be on. So we've got, again, how we see people in our garden or our group of people. The last corner is ship and ring. So here's movement going from one place to another and a contract. So these all, you could actually have probably told this client, Annie, if she came to you, what was happening to her before she even gave you her question, because the question is actually in the spread. That's the interesting thing about the Lenormand. You've got all the players. All you need to know is really who's involved. So we knew we had 3 people. If we didn't know 3 were involved, we probably would have started looking for something like using the man and woman for Annie and this person, and then using, say, the snake for the other woman. And the snake is on the child, new starts. So interesting. That's where that would have been. And this is also small gifts. This is related to work. So let's take a look at all these, and you'll see I'm going to read it as this being the woman like we started, but these are other options you can use if you're doing a reading and didn't know at the outset that there were 3 players. Okay, so let's take a look at Annie's now. So this is her present right here. This is this woman's present right here. This is this man's present right here. So this is a really juicy spread. There's a lot of interesting stuff. So let's take a look, if we're going to read right down this line, house on the house, it's on the house of house. This is really like if you take a college textbook and you open it up and there's only one highlight in it, this is what this is really pointing to, because if it lands on its own house, it's like a double whammy. And house to me is not only the house you live in, but it's also like your family of choice, who you choose to be around you, those few, like those 5 or 4 very close people that you allow into your sphere in your private area of secrets or personal knowledge. And this is really at the top of what she has, who she's letting in to her garden. Gardens tend to be big, houses tend to be more small. So now she's narrowing down who she's letting in. Anchor and birds. Now anchor can be stability and staying in one place. It can also be a job or hardworking. I tend to see this as a really hardworking, dedicated person. She clearly is. Birds can also be tweets and social network things and things that we say. So if we take a look at this, these two above her, and we put these two cards together, it's talking about the close people around her that she works with. So it's almost like her team, her work team that she deals with. So she may deal with social networks to actually gather people for a work team. Okay. Also, work is down here for her, so we've got a lot of work around her. Also, the bear, all my work cards are really here, except for the fox card, which can be small jobs, which was reserved for this man, and it also means sneaky. So it's interesting that that landed over there. So we've also got the bear in the tower. So this is about kind of a organized structure of where you work. We've got her birds down here again. Remember, it was under here. This time birds is on the house of the fish and how we make money. So this enterprise, and actually this is about talking. So she may do something with her voice in order to create this job on this hierarchy of people around her. This whole line is about her job and her work. So whether she knows it or not, this overture and this gift is related to what she does as a job. Okay, so this is not so much about being a friend. There's something about what she does as a job that is defining her here. Now, if you look at, this is a really fun thing to do. You take the people involved, and then you take a look at what comes together when they meet. Same thing here. Take a look at this line, and it's this. We've got work and money again. Okay, so this overture clearly is related to work, money, making money. She's also got a contract here next to her if we look at in this line. So these cards, because they meet, these are important, probably the most important here. It's kind of like the corner cards here, they box them in. But also, because they're attached to these lines, now this becomes important in part of a story, and this becomes important in part of a story. So let's take a look at this. So we have the woman, we're trying to figure out her reputation. She is working on making money. Stork is about either like a new birth, moving from one place to another, and so is Path. Now the Path is on dog. Super interesting, because the Path is about choices, this or that, and the dog is about friends or people we trust. So we've got this woman and a trust issue or a trust choice happening between these two. Because it's Annie's reading, I want to say that the trust is about her choosing one or the other. Should she choose to take this overture, or should she choose to cut? When I see the Path, I love to take a look at the ones that are on either side of it. So this can be a fun little decision spread. So if you've got Path, is it the contract she wants, or is she dealing with secrets and concern? Is she going to work with a woman, or is she really going to, what's under the bear? Letter? Oh, there's the overture again. So there's a choice between the woman and her reputation and what she perhaps is concerned about in the bear. These two are almost like the same. So we've got the Path and decision, so it's money, making decisions, and then something is cut. And the scythe is on the house of the tower. Interesting. Also here she's got business just like all around her. So scythe is about cutting or ending or being hurt by something, and it would be enterprise. So if we were looking at this money and making a choice here and cutting something, she's probably leaning more towards cutting and ending this enterprise, this including this woman into her. And we kind of get that feeling from her letter where her instincts seemed to tell her something was wrong. That's also validated by this right here with a coffin, where she's thinking of putting an end to something, and that's right in her future. And because that's right in her future, my guess is she's either already at the turning point of doing that and putting an end to this, or she may end up taking this course right here, which is, we'll see, a similar message. So this is her now. This being Annie's past, we just read that. So about this woman made an overture. She had to make a decision. There's a thing a thought of wanting to kind of cut a business relationship, not wanting to do it. Then we see her now. Okay, now she's still there on that garden, whether she's on Facebook or Twitter or Google Plus, wherever. Then we've got the Coffin that's on the house of the mountain. So putting the end to this may actually be harder than appears at first sight. She actually, who knows, could be really, this woman could be really either obsessed about her. I think that the cards that are around her are not tremendously bad, but it looks like Annie's already made a decision. So if we look at just these cards right here, these two right here could be putting an end to something because of confusion. It can be putting an end to something because of confusion related, and this would end up being a good thing if it was the last card in the sentence, because this is about love. But look what's under it. It's mice, something stealing away from feelings of love. And the last card in this line happens to be mountain, which is on heart. So it's about uphill climb, about determining who we love or trusting who we love. That's also near the garden. Surprise, surprise. So it's like all learning about these people in social networks, the letters they write, the things they say is going to be an over and over and over message. There's two cards here because one of the extra cards in the deck was the cat. And that's not a traditional card, but I didn't want to take it out because it's interesting, because that's a friend with conditions, and it lands on the lily. So here's what I get. I get that this woman, if it happens to be defining her, we've got a friend with conditions, and that may be how she's thinking of Annie. But also Annie may need to understand that this may happen again and again and again with her, that because of whatever she's doing with her business, she may get approached by a lot of people who are friends with conditions, even if they're well-intended. Because the lily for me tends to be like, people may not even realize that what they're doing is either using someone or might be taking advantage. It's a kind of a thought that's not without realization. Okay, so Annie's line starts with her decision, and then you can see it continues to end with this problem. Now let's go to the man. This gets kind of interesting and fun to read, not fun to live. He's on the coffin. It's funny because when I see a man in a coffin, I almost think of funeral home director, that sort of thing, and dealing with death. So that was kind of like a real icky feeling when I first saw that. Kind of emphasized by fox. Fox is the sneaky one of the deck. Now here's the difference between snake and fox. Fox is kind of a covert operation. So they may look cunning. You think of the wolf in Red Riding Hood, all dressed up, looked like one thing. Oh, grandmother, what big eyes you have, or what big nose you have. So, or assuming to be one thing and actually being another. With stars, this may be too many people or doing it many times. Stars is networking, spreading out. There's many of them in the sky, metastasizing, getting out there. And stars is also here. It's so interesting how in this spread, cards that are in houses and the cards that land on top are so close to each other. And even especially since this one landed in its own house. So the snake could be the other woman. I asked Annie if she wore glasses because traditionally the snake can be an other woman who wears glasses. So with this being close to her, if she is considered the other woman by this man or this woman, she does have spectacles. So this may be her, and it's on the child and starting something with her. I think this woman is trying to start some kind of relationship. There it is again, start. And it may end up being something that she wants to focus on with work. Tree is on the bear. Long-standing, looks like this person has a long-standing, sneaky relationship with whatever he does with business. It's been a long time, and it's this covert operation of sneakiness that's happened many times and across many people. And interesting, this can also be internet. So the stars, how they spread out, and there's electricity and light, and it can be that sort of thing. So the relationship between these two is interesting because we know that they have had a past relationship. And we've got mountain, it is a long uphill climb, and her relationship to him may have defined how she feels about her insecurities with love in choosing people into her sphere. So with the Coffin and the clouds wanting to end because there's confusion and nothing seems to be at face value, we've got the heart with the mice. So we've got, this is related to confusion about love, not being able to define clear love. Love in Mountain has to do with it's not like an easy relationship of trust. It's like you're really going to have to prove yourself to Annie in order to get here with her to the heart. So Annie's going to have, I think, ongoing lessons about trust and friendships. Now with him and the sneakiness, and that is like an uphill thing for him. It's funny because although it may be something that goes on a long time for him, it's actually a difficult thing for him within this community. So we've got sneakiness, long time uphill, very difficult with the community. Let's look at the houses and add those. So we've got a long-term sneakiness with many people. We've got him having difficulty. He has his own trust issues with people, and there's the heart right there, and then the heart. So this comes down to his line and trying to work around trusting people. And then the moon in the garden under him, this is so fascinating because garden being that group of people on the internet and moon is how we see them. This isn't just an issue with Annie. This may be his identity, because if we got Con here and we've got garden and moon, so how this group of people sees him, it can also be how he sees the group of people. But because I tend to read the houses this way, the card in the top tends to define the actual reading topic, and then the house flavors this. So if I look at this, these are all him, all right, and he's out there in the garden amongst the people. The fox is in the hen house. The moon tends to be how he is seen. So with this, him being loose in the garden, and we've got the fox, he's still running loose. Okay, so he still seems to have some sort of exposure or freedom, and that's really going to be an ongoing issue of trust with Annie, because if she needs to make relationships with people, and she's in this still dealing with that, and he's ahead of her in her future. So it looks like there's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, at least 4 months, because each of these could be feasibly a month of dealing with this. Now, when I just said the word exposure, and the sun is my exposure card, and the cross, it's interesting because that's, again, close right here. Sun tends to be how things are brought to light, all right? And if we took these top cards and made them into a sentence, so the burdens of using one's voice, or something is, this modifies this. So the voice is seen as negative or taken away because of exposure. Now, if that becomes our sentence, but get this, this last card tends to be the final period in the sentence. Now, we would think this would be positive because we've got exposure here, all right? But we've got cross under it. So there's going to be some kind of burden or difficulty in doing this. Could be some kind of sacrifice or martyrdom doing this. The line that is over this tells its own story. So we've got a friend who is not what they seem, or is confused, or has some kind of issue. It could be this man that, because we're talking about exposing the con, or exposing the woman, so we could actually see what lines up with each one. So if we're exposing the woman, you look at the line that comes between them, we land on the clover, the little gifts, and look who she's with. There's an answer we're seeking in terms of exposure. There's a fox going on here. Now, fox can also mean a little job. I have found that the fox card tends to have layers like that. So this fox may be both. Her wanting to have Annie do something in terms of partial job to the big picture, but it's a gift that she's offering her, but it may be related to something going on with the dog. The friend is not all they seem. All right, so this overture, as well intended as it is, she may be clouded, because if you look at the line between her and this man and bring them together, look what you got. you've got the fox and the stars. So she is probably one of his apostles without even realizing she is. She may think she's the close one, the only one, but it looks like he's got many, many, many of this going on. There it is again, many, many going on. So this line could now become the story between her and him, as could this. So it looks like him and her also, if you look at what they come between, they also have a message and a gift. So I think her relationship with him is, as Annie suspects, actually a good one, and she's close with him and loyal to him. All right, I think as it relates more to Annie, she may be making this overture that is well intended, but she actually may be confused and not thinking the way she thinks because of him. The stars are on the snake. He sees someone as another woman. Actually, with this stars and network and internet, there's lots and lots and lots of other women, and they are in his past. So he's swindled a lot of people. He's made them think they were a friend, and with the clouds, there was a lot of confusion in what he said. The key is on the tree. So, and that takes me back over here with Annie when we were talking about her tree and her close people and work relationship. And this key, I think, especially next to the house, so the house and the people she lets in is going to be a key to her life. Who she trusts and who is unclear. It's going to be clear. It's going to be a key for Annie. So this tree and stability and trying to, with her family of choice, her legacy, is really key. Also key is finding the snakes, okay, and who she starts with and who she ends with. So there's a lot that Annie's going to have to think about in terms of garden, friends, trust, and who she's with. So let's take a look again at these last 4 cards. I'm going to bounce back down here. So we've got cross and birds. So feeling oppressed about how one is using one's voice, or sacrifice related to one's voice. Maybe she feels she can't say anything, and that may be validated by this voice taken away. And the sun, maybe something comes out. All right, that's when you add your houses and it becomes interesting. And I happen to have the happy squirrel that landed here, so I just put it down and then put the next card down on top of it because that's our extra card, and that usually tells me a lot. The happy squirrel, if we look at job, the happy squirrel and the mice, the mice could be taking away from the happiness, or the happy squirrel, it's something is taken away. Actually, this is our top card, okay? That may be a good thing, the happy squirrel. And anchor, it may give stability or allow for a better job. Okay, the cross with the sun, those two are kind of boxed in by the cross. So exposure, difficult. So we've got our own little sentence going on here. So the key is going to be the answer, and this is related to business because business is on top of this. The key is going to be this going through this difficult thing. It's going to be a very important experience for Annie. Okay. She's going through, I mean, the movements that are happening here between the gift and the rider. We've got the ship here with the contract and her making an overture for a ring, same as what's here. So in the line of this woman making this overture, come with me, and this one here as well, which is the scythe, which could be scythe, I'll tell you, can mean cutting something and ending it, but it also can be sarcasm or a personality of a person who is, let's say, like negative sarcasm, dry wit. The personality she has may come across as somewhat not warm and fuzzy, I'll put it that way. All right, and maybe this woman is starting to be the same way, maybe Annie, because she's got it right here, but it looks like she's doing it protecting her business somehow. We can also start looking at the cards on either side of her. So if this is like, let's say this is a 9-card spread. So these cards that box around her and her in the middle can end up being its own little discussion. So we've got here child and stork, which is starting something and moving. Like this is almost like the overture. And underneath we've got broom and whip. So this is either clearing out something, like you clean your house, or it can be over and over and over patterns. The woman with the stork, so this could be It's interesting. Which woman do you want this to be? I'm going to make it the querent because she's the center of our reading. So movement of the woman who happens to be near that. We can also take a look at these right here, movement of business. These two right here, business related. She's a hardworking person. And then we've got the other woman starting with the child again over here and the bear. So the other woman that has a business, an enterprise, getting a message from her. So even this little 9-card spread right here has its own information. And you can start applying other things to it like knighting. So knighting is if you take, let's say, the woman, and we were to say 2 spots over and 1 up or 1 down. So it's 2 and then 1. We can start finding the cards that tell her hidden motives or what she's interested or how she's thinking. But we can do it in the corner cards or these center cards. Any of the edge cards we can do knighting with. So the bear would knight with anchor. So stability in business is something she wants to consider. Birds, and so the business and how she uses her voice is important. The letter and the overture, so how she's going to use her voice in terms of this. So another one is snake and the other woman, or starting with the other woman who may seem slippery. And the tower related to business that could be connected with the man. All right, and I don't think it's an accident that these things land together. It's not that she's just thinking about it. It is what it is. The Lenormand is very blunt. So this business is related to something he is doing. Now, I never really finished saying the difference between fox and snake. We know that he's covert, he's sneaky, he's got masks, he's got different personas, he may have different aliases, and he's working with different other women, even if she thinks she's the only one. The snake, when you see a snake, you know it's a snake. It's negative, and you can see it for what it is. So when we're talking about a child and a new start, I think she is seeing the overture for what it really is, even if she doesn't. I think Annie's sense of it is actually clearer than what hers is. I think because of her relationship with him, she's seen it for more of a reality than this woman has. Let's take a look at the knights of this particular man. I think this would be interesting. So down here we've got the hearts, and again remember that's on the mice, so taking away from love relationships, and isn't he doing that, and he's impacting people's trust. This one here, gifts that are sneaky and covert, so and covert, and so I think that and when you take a look at these two, these speak a lot as to his personality and what he does. Perhaps he's charming and he offers gifts, comes across as a friend, even here the loyal friend, and actually what's going on is something much darker. The clouds are on the path, so it's interesting because if I look at what I just read, she's got another one coming, and it's choice A or choice B, and it very well could be with this woman. This is what we're looking at right here, right now in the spread. We also can take a look at diagonals. So when we look at her past, where she's been and where she's going. So she's been in the past with this bear and messages. She is now in the house of the garden. She's headed right in the near future towards starting something with a snake. And then it may bite. It may come with gifts. And then a dog and clouds. So as much as she may have put something behind her, such as him on the coffin, she might have clipped that and ended it. And there's another clipping right there. I'm thinking that there's another one coming. And again, that could be one of these. It looks like it's also, because it's right here next to his network, related again to him. So it's like he's got these soldiers that may be out there. May not even realize what they're doing because he's got this going on, and he may actually be out to, when you think of killing people, may not be in the physical sense, but it could very much be in the sense of wanting to either ruin someone or get back or revenge or that sort of thing. It's almost like you hurt me, I'll get you before you get me. His line is an interesting one because he started good too with the gift. And it looked good with the lily, and there's little gifts. Same as over here, but remember that's on the fox. All right, the rider. So he came with messages, come along with me, I'll take you somewhere. He becomes a part of a tight-knit family. he enters the lock. He's like he's now entered into the locked zone he is in. He's part of the family, he's part of the legacy, he becomes stable. So this is him working it. He is now the friend, but look what he's got. All right, so and even when the clouds are there, and you can see the clouds are here, what's between them? He keeps on doing the gifts, charm, charm, charm. Look out, all right? Fox in the hen house. And then the snake, other woman, always working other people, and it seems like he may have woman targets or very feminine-like energies. Another thing we can do, we have the knighting we can do with any of the characters, not within a 9-card thing. So we can take her and we can knight her here. So we've got Scythe, and remember that was in the House of the Tower. So making a cut related to business. This one here, Rider and Ship. We've got Innocent Gifts. We've got Secrets. Oh, Book is in the House of Book. And interesting, because this was House on the House. How scandalous. Okay, so Book on the House of Book. Book is about learning and lessons. She may have her own lesson to learn related to business and movement. Book is also about, it's funny because the book and the cross being close together looks to me like esoteric knowledge. People are learning some kind of spiritual system. That might actually be her business. These three are kind of like a triangle right here. And the book also, this is my big secrets card. So this is another highlight. So secrets, all kinds of secrets going on. And the house on the house within tight-knit people. So even people who are close to each other have secrets against each other. Very scandalous spread. Very, very interesting. Now, let's take another look at what could be going on in this. His past. So I'm going to start down here. He used his voice to make money. Movement from one place to another with woman. So he keeps, I guess he keeps bouncing from woman to woman. That must be what he takes away from. Then he ends it. See all these little cards around it? Difficulty. Friend with conditions. Ooh, it gets so interesting here. And related to business. He's doing this all, it's all about business. He's taking advantage for something related to business. All right, so he's done this. So he uses voice in movement, and he's used his voice to move around. Clouds is confusion. I even see that sometimes as mental illness, but the clouds in the path is diversion. So he may say one thing and do another. He may be using distortions to suggest he's doing one thing that the goal is another. But clouds is about confusion. It can be lies, especially right here, because whip is can be painful words, painful things. And clouds and letter is like confusion about messages that are going out. Also clouds about what he is saying about love, relationships, or words. Exposure and letter and sun. It's funny because if we do get something and that exposes him, there's close to this one, that impacts him in the garden and how he was seen. So let's continue this line. So voice, movement, clouds and words, and then getting those tight people that he can work with for a long time related to business. This is all about business. And back up to him who's on the coffin. So whenever it looks like when he's in business, it's almost like he creates his own grave. He ends it. It's done. Whew. There's someone like that. Okay, so I'm trying to think if I've forgotten anything here. So we can do knighting. You can knight any of the cards. You can knight her. So Annie can have these. So we can have gifts that are of words from a conditional friend that are painful. All right, and see how the layers, the cards that apply to him can start applying back to her, but how they talk to the ones that are near them, it starts to create a story, like an energy cluster or energy group. So we also have, let's see, for Annie, we've got the gifts, painful speech, over and over patterns. So people may offer her gifts that are not best intended, or maybe little business ventures. Could be both. This one right here, she is related to contracts or things she may have to cut. This, saying no may be actually a lesson she needs to learn, and something that is very important to her in terms of patterns over and over. So if she has to cut contracts, that may be, especially with this coffin right here, and like done end, as well as the side. These two are on both sides of her, so she's like in the middle of a cutting sandwich. A pruning type energy is around her. Okay, books. And funny, because if this is around her in books and secrets, she may be very interested in learning things, also esoteric, also related to a business. But she also, this book, secrets and contracts and patterns of pain and gifts in dealing with foxes, maybe something she has an ongoing thing with, ongoing lessons. Key for her is stability and her legacy. Right here, rider and ship is again movement. She likes to move, she likes to do things. So you can put the knighted cards together in their own group and see what they say. If you don't want to use the houses underneath, some people don't, you can just take the cards at face value for what they are and start putting them in clusters. So we would here have money choices, here or there, A or B. We would have the path with the scythe would be one you would take, one you would cut. Which one are you going to cut with the woman? So she's actually thinking about cutting something. We knew that from her question. If we look at, it's funny because coffin, if she's thinking of cutting this and he's on the coffin, right away we know that there's a relationship between what she wants to cut and what's on the coffin house. Ending things because they're unclear, foggy, not what they seem. Endings, clouds, because of misunderstandings. Misunderstanding of friends and people who claim they like her. Friends that end up being, you really have to go with it a long time before understanding it. And if you look on either side of the mountain, we've got foxes in the hen house, and then we've got a garden. So it's kind of like choices that she'll have to make. But if you ever want to take just the top cards, so we've got the house, business, stability with the woman, another business card, voice, using her voice for business. Voice is being taken away. Something is taken away, but then it comes to light, so something is then seen, so something may be exposed up here. So you can really start seeing this, a similar story. I like the houses because they kind of define these and give more details. I really love the houses. Okay, so for the last part, what we can do is we can count. So what we'll do is we'll take a look where the woman is, and of course she's on the house of the garden, so we look where the garden is. And we're going to bounce around a bit. So the garden is here, so the story goes like this. She's got a garden, so she's around people. She's learning how to define the people she's around. With the moon, we're going to go look where the moon card is. And that was under this woman. So she's defining what people are, and this woman defining this woman as well as she's getting gifts. Okay, so we look at the bouquet. The gifts that she gets may help her move or go from one place to another, but the gifts may often come in the form of messages. So then we look where the rider is, right here on the ship. So the rider messages related to movement, people wanting to take her, do this, that with her, and we take a look at where the ship is. Okay, so we have the ship that leads us down here. So the ship now, the movement is through the form of contracts or promises or bondings with other people. We look where the ring is, and that's right up here close by, and cutting. So taking contracts, and she may have to learn how to actually cut or say no. There's that saying no lesson we talked about. Then we look at where the scythe is, related to business. There may be things that she has to cut related to business and enterprise. It may happen over and over again. So then we look where the tower is, which is down here, and on the man, back to business related to the man. And this is all like this whole circle. So if we ask the original question, is she in cahoots with this guy? Should she be paranoid or should she be trusting? Here's our answer right here. She's in cahoots with him, and she's probably has some kind of business relationship with him as well. If we look at the man, putting an ending to him is going to be part of her issue, cutting. We look where the coffin is. back next to Annie. Mountain, it's going to be a long uphill climb. You know why I think, and this isn't part of this sentence thing, but I think it's because of all these people that are around him and the conning that he's doing to them. So then we look where the mountain is. It's right under him here, related to heart. So she's going to have a lot of experiences with learning to trust people. This won't be the last. Probably isn't the first either, but it definitely won't be the last. Look where the heart is, so right here. And then we look where the mice are. They're down here. So that's where we landed with the happy squirrel, something taking away from happiness, but also dealing with business, what's taking away from her joy, what's taking away from her joy in business, what's taking away from her joy in feeling stable or secure or in one spot. Okay, then we look where the anchor is, and that takes us right above Annie up here. And birds. We're really bouncing around a lot here. It doesn't always take us this long. We're waiting to come back to the woman. Fish. So using her voice for money, and then fish. Fish and movement. So you keep doing this until you basically get back to the woman. So we're now at stork. There she is. And that's the end of our counting, our loop. So movement. And because she's moving and migrating, there's what she's doing. If we take a look at the stork card where we ended and look at the cards around it, woo-wee. So business, ended, hurt, over and over, taken away. So these are all kind of like, if we look at what her question was, should I be paranoid or should I trust? These are all say end, end, end. Keep your business strong, okay? And also end business with the man. By doing that, by cutting this woman, you're ending a relationship with the man, which takes us up to the coffin and ending that. So the feeling I get overall from this is that this woman is also being duped by this man. She's one of an army, may not realize she's not alone, may think she's working one-on-one, but one of an army, and you are being told, Annie, to trust your instincts and cut her. Even if she's well-intentioned, because the cards around her show a hard-working woman that seems to be well-intentioned, she's actually like on the go, related to this guy, may not even realize the danger she may be putting you into. Lastly, this is also from the Trepner course. Take every fourth card, we're going to remove it, and we're going to end up with some stories. So what you can do at this point, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so you can start reading these combos in each their own little story. So the woman with a contract to start. Okay, we know that this woman does want to start a contract. Money, decisions, cut. There's one piece of recommendation right there, and you can look underneath it, related to the job. So you can use the houses to end the confusion, love people. So it's basically she could, but because this is taken away, the confusion is going to be impacted and nibbled away, but it's encouraging her to continue to move toward love. Slippery person will be giving gifts for stability related to the job, so that's another part of the story we saw. Move, cut, send a message. So you may have to send an actual message that this is really done. When you think of sun and exposure and burden, maybe you even want to say why. You cannot mention your concerns if you want. That's entirely up to you. That's a whole other question. So after you're done with these, move this aside. We've completed that part of the grand tableau. And we take the 9 cards that we pulled out, give them a little shuffle. I did notice that the man was one of them. So we've got fox. Oh, and a woman too. Didn't even realize I picked that up. How interesting is this? So what we're talking about here is, this has more to do with Annie and this guy than Annie and this woman. I don't think she realizes the influence that this guy is still having on her life. So let's take a look at if we were to take this as a 9-card reading. Now, first of all, when you do this 9-card reading summary, it's kind of like, okay, here's the final word from the Lenormand. So the center card is the big one, and of course we see the fox. There's our slippery face, and there he is right there. So Annie's aware of it. Business agreement was between them. Hard-working, Here's her card again about being in the garden, working with people. With the mountain, that's going to be a difficult process for her, weeding them out of her garden. We have here the anchor, the birds, and the house. So basically have stability with who you're talking with or who you keep in your close family. When you look at this man's line, the man is an uphill climb when you consider whoever works with him close in their house. Look at the man, the fox, and the anchor. So the man using slyness related to a job, and that's just, he's sunk there. If you think of a ship putting an anchor down, that's where it stays. It's going nowhere, so he's going to keep at that. If you look at the woman, you can start knighting, so birds is related to her and how she uses her voice. You can start mirroring these cards, so using your voice for your big enterprise. We did this already. You can do diagonals, so the woman in her house, there's a fox in the hen house, as we said. So woman has a sneaky person in the house. So because we asked this particular question of this other woman, this also answers her question, is there's a good reason for her paranoia, and she really should trust her instinct. And that's today's Grand Tableau, which ended with our little 9-card reading. I hope this was helpful to you. If you see anything else in the spread or the Grand Tableau that I missed, I would love to hear from you because we can certainly learn from each other.